Welcome to our AM Minnesota program. Marty Coswell there. I'm chuckling because I had Peter hand me some papers. I feel like the hunchback of Notre Dame. Maybe you guys can explain what I'm talking about. Jim Doda, Virginia Van Sluis, and I didn't bring the right note with me. I brought my interview. Kirk Mansfield's here too. I brought my interview from the Carleton College student. I didn't bring my list of my guests here this morning. So I did that all off the top of my bald head, folks. Good morning, folks.
Morning.
Thanks for joining me. I'll start with you, Virginia. You're the co-chair of the committee, right?
I am.
Maybe you could explain how all this goes. We're talking about the traveling wall, the traveling Vietnam Memorial Wall, which is coming to Faribault next year, August 31st through September 5th. When I heard this, I thought, how awesome.
Sure. It started, I am a member of the Elks here in town, and it started with the fact that I am the chair committee for the veterans for the Elks, and amongst the things that I was doing, I thought, well, this would be awesome to bring to town. When I checked into it and the cost and what it would entail, I knew that we couldn't do it on our own. Then we're having a memorial for Caleb Erickson, and we asked Kurt to do the closing prayer, and in talking we just mentioned the wall, and he said, well, you know, the Legion had wanted to do that too. So lo and behold, the next week there was 5 of us around a table in the Legion finding out how we could bring this to town, and within a half hour we said, okay, we can do it. Didn't know exactly what was ahead of us as far as the financing, but we just said, yep, we can do it. The town will get behind it. So here we are, and the deposit is there, the wall is coming, and we're real excited.
So we still need to raise some funds.
We do need to raise some funds. It is an expense, yes, but I think when the general public gets there to see it, and it will be here, as you said, for 5 days, whatever they contributed, whether it was $1, whether it's $5, or whatever they can do to help bring this for the people that won't get to Washington to see it, or won't be able to travel to another town that's 2 hours or 3 hours away to see it.
Right. So, before we hit the airwaves, you said that you haven't seen the wall.
No, I had an opportunity when I was working in the hotels to do a trade show back in Washington, D.C., and we turned the corner, and here I drove by it, but I didn't have an opportunity to get out and see it.
Yeah, so now you'll have an opportunity to see this, because as I understand it, this is a replica, but I mean, it's like seeing it.
Yes, this is actually one of the larger, and I think it might be the largest replica that goes around. There's 4 walls that travel around. We were able to get this. They're booked out maybe 2 years, 3 years in advance, most of them. And they gave us 3 dates on this one, and most of them, 2 of them were close to the winter time. We said, nope, this is perfect, even though it's going to be over Labor Day. So, yeah.
Yeah. All right, we're going to visit with the other guests too here in a moment. Today we have in studio, and we are certainly honored to have them with us, Virginia Van Sluis, who is co-chair of the Traveling Wall Faribault 2016. Kirk Mansfield, he's a core team member of the Traveling Wall, and core team member Jim Doda. They're all in studio here on our AM Minnesota program to get the word out, because they still need to raise some funds for this wall that's coming to Faribault. It's definitely coming to Faribault, right, Virginia?
Absolutely. We've got the date. We've put the deposit down, so yes, we're on their calendar.
But we'd like to be able to pay the bill in full.
Absolutely. Definitely. We will. I mean, we're well on our way to raising the funds. We have some exciting things that will be happening, and these 2 gentlemen will tell you all about that. They'll help raise the funds for this.
Right.
And it's not just something that for the Elks or the Legion or the VFW, which contributed heavily. It's not just for us. It's for the town and the surrounding areas and the people.
Yeah. So Kirk, past commander of the Faribault American Legion, Kirk Mansfield, is also a member of this committee. Your honest opinion, Kirk, when you heard about this, what did you think?
Well, honestly, I mean, this is great news for the community, for the particularly for the veterans, and especially for Vietnam veterans. I mean, they didn't get the welcome home years ago that they rightfully deserved, and we're going to do all that we can to give them a proper welcome home when this wall comes to our city here next summer. So, you know, when I first heard about the news, we'd been talking for, as Virginia had alluded to, we'd been talking for many years to try to get this to happen, and we just really never had a concerted effort to push this all the way through. And when we met with Virginia and, you know, the folks over at the Elks back in the spring, you know, I guess the only thing that I would differ in opinion with her, that it took 30 minutes to decide this was going to happen. I think we had this pretty well laid out within 5 minutes that we committed to make this to happen. So, you know, it's great news. I think this is a wonderful opportunity for folks that don't get the opportunity to travel to Washington, D.C. to see the full-size, you know, 100% scale wall. So this is an 80% scale, and it offers many of the things, the attributes that you'll see in Washington, D.C., and I think just having it here in our community is going to be a great chance.
Where are you going to locate it?
This is going to be at the Rice County Fairgrounds, just inside the gate there, right behind the grandstand area is our #1 spot, and we're looking at finalizing the plan to get that all laid out there. So we actually had gone out, Peter and I and some others, we had actually explored all of the grounds in the fairground area, and we thought that presented the best location in terms of we need electrical power. Obviously all that's right in the grandstand area, restrooms, all the support functions that we're going to need are all right there, as well as the we're going to have some tents set up, and we're going to have probably use like where they do the bingo, like the bingo area. We'll have that'll kind of like be our base camp area, so to speak, and we'll locate everything around there. We looked at some other areas in the fairgrounds, but that particular area presented the best opportunities for us in terms of the support and the logistics that are going to be needed to keep everything set up. So
this needs to be guarded, right, 24/7?
Absolutely. The wall will be under 24/7 guard for the entire duration that it's here. We have the Marine Corps League. Doug Truman is heading up our security detail, and we're going to have all that laid out. We'll have folks on hand. The wall will be staffed 24/7 for the duration of the entire time that it's here. So,
and this is out of respect for the names on
absolutely.
the wall.
You know, we don't anticipate any wrongdoing there, but obviously we want folks to be available. If people have questions, we're going to have a tent set up that'll have a directory. I mean, there's 58,200 plus names on that wall, and you can't just walk up to that and find the name readily. I mean, they're laid out in such an order that they are.
Yeah, it's not alphabetical.
No, it's not alphabetical. It is in order of casualty, date of casualty, death. So they're not necessarily in alphabetical order. They might be alpha by that day, but it's in terms of when the casualty actually happened. So that's how they're laid out. And with 58,000 plus names, you can't, like I said, you can't readily identify where they're at. So we'll have directories available. We'll have staff on hand to help with that, and that's all part of the security detail as well. So main thing is just to help people move through the wall in good order, and if they have questions, we'll have staff on hand to help them with that. So,
is there going to be a charge?
No charge. No, this is we're obviously trying to raise funds to pay for the wall to come here. That part isn't free, but if anyone wants to make a free will donation, we would absolutely encourage that. But in terms of charge at the wall, there's no charge to come see that at all.
Yeah, I thought that might help defray some of the costs, but you want to keep this free.
Absolutely. Free to the public, open to the public. It's a wonderful opportunity, like I mentioned, for the whole community to get behind this and come out and see us. I know we're just a little bit under a year out, but we just really want to get things moving with this. The planning committee has been in action here for the last 3-4 months, and we want to get that seed planted. You're going to start seeing flyers up around. If some locations already have this, but we'll have more media out in the public, and you're going to start to see more of this. We have some of these little cards that we have. Just if you see these around, post these on a refrigerator. Just keep that available. And we have the websites here. We'll mention those as well. But yeah, we have a lot of information, and we're just moving forward.
I just put a card up in front of the camera, the traveling wall faribault card. We'll talk about how you can donate in a second, but first of all, Jim, you served in Vietnam, right?
Yes, sir.
So, I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't mean a lot to all of us, because it should, but I'm sure it means even more for you.
Well, it means a lot, and it's going to mean a lot to the local veterans around here, and not just from the Vietnam era. It's any veteran, and I guess I'd encourage any of the young people around this area to come and see this too, because it's a big piece of the history, and it's something you can view, and it's actual. Yeah, it's a lot smaller, but it's the actual thing, and to see that number of names on a wall that gave the ultimate sacrifice is kind of overwhelming. So,
Any of the guys you served with on that wall?
no, thank God, they all came back.
That's
but,
cool.
Yeah, we know some of the local people here. Ben Danielson
Right.
from
Yep.
Kenyon and Mr. Riley. But yeah, thank God, our area has been covered.
That's good. You were in the Navy, right?
Right.
And did you actually go over to Vietnam?
I was there for a few days, and that was it.
You lucked out there too then.
Yes, I did.
Kirk, I know you served in Desert Storm, right?
I did. I was in the United States Navy from 86 through 92, and Desert Storm obviously fell within that time frame. So I didn't actually go to the desert, but I was in Europe supporting our troops that were in country at that time. So my father is a Vietnam veteran. He served on 2 different aircraft carriers, the USS Constellation and the USS Coral Sea. Both of those were in the Gulf of Tonkin at various times during Vietnam War. And a lot of the aircraft that he worked on, he was an aviation fire control technician. A lot of the aircraft that he worked on flew direct missions over Vietnam, Laos, all Southeast Asia.
So you've heard a number of stories from him over the years, I would guess.
I have. The early years wasn't anything that really came up in conversation, but as I started to come of age, you know, and seeing veterans around me or just being exposed to other veterans, I think a lot of that started to come to the forefront, and we've had many wonderful discussions over the years, and he shared a lot of his memories, time that he had spent at sea, and you know, fortunately, my father made it home, but there's a lot of names on that wall. A lot of fathers did not make it home.
Yeah, that's
and,
very,
you know,
very
I'm
tough.
very fortunate to have a very close relationship with my dad, and we've spent a lot of time, you know, sharing these memories and just discussing veterans issues to any number of length. And you know, he's supported all my efforts over the years, and I think it's kind of reciprocal. All the things that he's been involved in, it's pretty amazing. So.
Was there ever a doubt that you were going to be in the Navy?
Probably no doubt once I committed to joining the military. Navy was first and foremost, and I really didn't look at any other branch.
How about you, Jim? Is your dad in the Navy?
No, my dad was in the Army. He couldn't pass the Navy physical, so he was in the Army.
Is the Navy physical more difficult than what the Army physical? Must be.
My dad was colorblind.
And you had to not be colorblind to be in the Navy.
Right. Exactly.
Interesting.
So he was happy to serve in the Army. He was in during the Second World War, but he never left out of country either. He became a cavalry sergeant and trained people to go over.
Yeah, my dad was in World War II, and he served in France. He was in France during the war, and neither of his sons went in the military. My brother and I, neither one of us. That was, I think, my dad's greatest disappointment. He always encouraged us, wanted us to join, but after Vietnam, I have to be totally honest, my brother graduated in '73, so that's toward the end of the Vietnam War. But after the Vietnam War, I had no desire, I'm sorry, to serve, because, I mean, they didn't let them fight. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
But my dad always said, and this is absolutely right, you know, you can't blame the people that served for not being able to win that war, because they weren't allowed to fight. They're just doing what they're ordered to do. That's the bottom line, right, Kirk?
Well, without a doubt. I mean, obviously you have any number of political agendas that are happening at any given moment, and I think that was extremely prevalent during the Vietnam era. But Gordy, I just want to point out, and not only to you personally, but to all folks, I mean, there should be no regrets on your behalf for not having served. I know plenty of civilians that have no military background whatsoever, and I can say spot on, Gordy, that you have been extremely supportive of all of our efforts over the years here, and you know, as a veteran and speaking on behalf of all veterans, you know, folks like yourself, I mean, we appreciate the efforts that you put forth on a daily basis, not only for what you do, but just for spreading the word, you know, and that it's extremely, we cannot, I don't even know how to say this into words, but the appreciation that we have for folks of your nature, it's overwhelming, and so no regrets. I mean, yes, you may not have worn the uniform or having saluted in any sort of manner in that regard, but the efforts that you put forth on a daily basis, it means a hell of a lot to us, and we cannot thank you enough.
No, well, thank you, Kirk. I appreciate that. I've always been a big believer in supporting our military, frankly, because of what happened when the soldiers came home at Vietnam. And let's see how we can donate toward this. Kirk, if I come to the Legion, do I write a check to you guys? Do you have a special website or something set up, or how does that all work?
We do. I'll defer this to Virginia. She's kind of in charge
sure.
of this piece, so
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Sure. Everything is listed on Facebook, and I'm gonna go to that. The Facebook page is it's Traveling Wall Faribault 2016. It has all the information on there. If you're wanting to do a donation, you can do a check. You can bring it in to either the Legion, the Elks. They will take it and they will give it to us. But if you'd like to mail it, it goes to Post Office Box 441, Faribault, Minnesota. And everybody should know the zip code 55021. And reference that to the Traveling Wall Faribault 2016. So that should pretty much cover that.
Now, you guys are 501c3. Is
Yes,
this
we
tax
are.
deductible?
Well,
That's not the reason you do it, I know, but people might be curious to know.
yeah. The Faribault Foundation is assisting us with this, so you went with Peter to that, so you know a little bit more than I do about
Sure.
that. So.
Kirk?
Right, the Faribault Foundation, they kind of stepped up to help us take the lead as far as the financial piece of this. So we kind of fall under the 501c3, you know, within that organization, the Faribault Foundation. So, and I think it's important to note, you know, as far as the social media, you know, all the kids are on the Facebook now, so that's probably the best way to get information if you want to access it through the computer. But certainly you could stop into the Legion and talk with the folks here or at the Elks. I mean, we have a lot of folks that are in the know on this. Yeah, look for these flyers around town. I mean, we've got some upcoming events. You know, we're going to be doing some breakfasts at the Legion here coming up in December. And then April 23rd, we've got some bands that you probably haven't seen around in a while. The Ridge Runners are getting back together. And what was the other one? The
Haystack.
Haystack? Oh, yeah.
There's two other bands, but Mike Fitzpatrick from Shieldsville got active into this as soon as he heard about it and got these three bands committed. So it should be a good time.
Right.
Ooh, when's that?
This is going to be on April 23rd. We're looking at doing that. That'll be in the spring, and that's also going to coincide. We're going to actually get a motorcycle, you know, a ride together for that day. We're going to do that. This is going to be on a Saturday. We're going to have the ride going during the day, and then when we get back to the Legion in the evening around 4 or 5 p.m., we're going to have the bands kick off and then play some live music for us. So this is just kind of a fundraiser. One of the things we're doing. June 11th, we're looking at having a classic car show and a rally to go along with that, and then probably a short ride along with the bikes. And then we're in the process of scheduling some more events that are coming up as well. So. And then one of the main things we got going on is we're in the process of designing a T-shirt at this point. So you'll be seeing those shirts coming out soon, and those will be available through the Elks and the Legion, and you'll see those as well. So, and then we also have this banner, pretty amazing banner that's been worked up, and you're going to be seeing that on display. I think Hy-Vee's had it already, and a couple of other businesses around town. We're looking to kind of move that around the community, and that gives some information on that as well too. So, but yeah, like I said, the social media is kind of the way that things are now, pretty readily accessible. either through the website or through the Facebook. So either way.
Any of your Legion VFW brethren in the area? You know, some of the Northfield Post, Lonsdale Post, Kenyon Post, are they helping with this?
Yeah, we're reaching out to them now. We actually just did a mailing last evening, and that's actually going out to all the 3rd District, basically southern Minnesota American Legions, and then the VFWs will be including as well. But we're reaching out with these other organizations. We'd like to see a wonderful support group in terms of our color guard and our honor guard. We'd like to see those folks step in from the other posts to help out where they can as well. So I know when we had this traveling wall had been in Cannon Falls, it's been 9 years. This was back in '06, and I was lucky enough to be part of the group that we actually took a motorcycle group down to La Crosse, Wisconsin, and we met the wall at the border. And then we had a Minnesota State trooper escort from all the way from La Crosse all the way to Cannon Falls. So, and we'll be doing a similar event. When we get close here, we'll have the bikes all aligned, and we'll go and meet the wall probably about 20 miles out or so, and we'll give them a full escort, a proper escort into the town of Faribault, and we're planning on going down Central and right down 4th, and hopefully we'll have as many business folks as we can, or the community come out and support that route when we come into town, and get us all the way into the fairgrounds at that point. So, but yeah, there'll be a lot more literature forthcoming on that as we get closer, and particularly when we get the time frame of when the wall will actually be arriving in town.
Jim, will it be totally silent when I go to the walls? You know, totally silent, or will be there a recording of the names being read, I should say, or anything like that?
There will be a list of names constantly read over during the presentation at the fairgrounds, but hopefully the weather will permitting.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the weather.
It's going to help us out a little bit too, knock on wood. It's a good time of the year, so hopefully that'll all work out. And like Kirk said before, we're going to have people there supporting. Anybody has questions or needs to find a name and find that location on the wall, it'll be assistance there. And that's where we need the sign up people, the help. Kenyon, VFW, and Legion's already committed. Morristown, Legion's committed. These people all want to come in for the security and assistance. So
cool.
Yeah, and we'll be contacting Lonsdale and Northfield very shortly, and probably Owatonna. It should all work.
Yeah, well, I'm sure people from all over the region will stop by. Now, there was a wall recently at Fort Snelling, right?
There was. I think this was 2 weeks ago. They had a replica, a small-scale replica up there. And then at the end of July, they had the wall down at St. Peter. And the one that was down at St. Peter, or St. James, sorry. I misspoke there, St. James. And that is actually the same traveling wall that's going to be coming to Faribault. So we've got kind of a precursor. We were able to go down and visit with them and kind of see how they had theirs set up. They actually had theirs set up on the baseball field, similar to what Cannon Falls had done 9 years ago.
Yep.
But ours obviously going to be at the fairgrounds, but we'll have it set up in a similar fashion. As Jim mentioned, there will be. We're thinking of reading the names of all the Minnesota KIA that are on the wall, and you have over 1,000 names, listed there. We're going to have an opening ceremony. We're working out the details on that now. That'll probably happen on the first full day, or maybe the second full day that it's open in the evening.
Okay, so August 31st is not a full day, you're saying?
Well, August 31st, the wall arrives, and I think that's on a Wednesday, and then we'll set it up. I believe we're setting up that following morning, so we'll need folks available to help set up. And again, we'll have literature forthcoming, and we'll be doing a big push to get volunteers as we move in, particularly the spring and summer months of next year. Right now, our main objective is to try to just plant this seed, get people thinking about this, get the word out, spread the word. The social media, as I mentioned, helps a lot. But a lot of this, the information is going to be forthcoming. But we have the dates, as Virginia mentioned, these dates are solidified. This is absolutely 100% coming here Labor Day weekend next year. So we've got a lot of work to get done through the winter months.
Virginia, I won't ask the total price tag on this, but I will ask, do you know what percentage you're at? Are you 50% of the way, 70% of the way, 30% of the way?
Right now, I'd say we're probably about 45% of the way. If we didn't have any other costs, we could go ahead and probably say that we're about there.
Okay.
But there are other costs that will be forthcoming for this to present it. We did have we have had several good donations as far as items that will help us bring down the cost, but we're about 45, maybe close to 50% of our goal right now.
You still have a way to go.
We do.
So hop
But
on
we'll
that.
get there.
Hop on that Facebook page. It just says Traveling Wall Faribault. That's the Facebook.
Yep. They'll find it if they put in
Oh, here it
Traveling
is.
Wall Faribault 2016. It'll pop right up.
Okay, it'll pop right up. It'll pop right up.
Mhm.
Traveling Wall Faribault 2016. That the website is www.travelingwallfaribault2016.org. Travelingwallfaribault2016.org, and I assume I can just press a button and donate there too, right?
Yes.
Sounds good. Thanks for all you're doing on this.
You're welcome.
It's going to be so awesome.
Yes, thank you.
Get the Traveling Wall to Faribault, August 31st through September 5th. Thanks, Kurt. Appreciate you stopping by.
Thank you.
Jim, it's always good to see you. Jim and I actually went on a trip up to Duluth one time, but we don't have much time to talk about that. He and his lovely bride actually drove me up there and tolerated me in the car for how many hours. We appreciate that. And Virginia, it was nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you.
That concludes today's edition of AM Minnesota on KDHL AM in Faribault.